Major funding for Carolina Business Review is provided by Grant Thornton, an international accounting, tax, and business advisory organization dedicated to serving middle-market companies. Grant Thornton, a passion for the business of accounting. Novant HEALTH, including Presbyterian in Charlotte and Forsyth in Winston-Salem, are affiliate heart hospitals of the Cleveland Clinic, consistently ranked #1 in the nation for heart care. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of South Carolina, proudly serving South Carolinians since 1946. And by Sunoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services with more than 300 operations in 35 countries.
Well, I am not sure what is more attention-grabbing, the volatility of our day-to-day feelings about this economic thrill ride we've been on for the last few years, or the pace and the pitch of political rhetoric as we slide into the fall elections. Welcome and thank you again for watching the most widely watched source for Carolina business and public policy. I'm Chris William, and with summer now in full stride, we keep one foot in vacation down at the beach and the other in our business. It pays to stay up to date on issues that really do matter, and we will on this program. And joining our dialogue again later, South Carolina Treasurer Curtis Loftis.
Major funding also by the Duke Endowment, a private foundation in Charlotte enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, health care, rural churches, and children's services. And by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. Who's responsible for rising health care costs? Join Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina and many others in a candid discussion at letstalkcost.com. This edition of Carolina Business Review was recorded July 13, 2012. On this week's program, Dr. Michael Bitzer of Catawba College, Dr. Scott Baier of Clemson University, and special guest Curtis Loftis, Treasurer of the State of South Carolina.
Hello, welcome to our program. Happy summer, and gentlemen, welcome to the program. Scott, listen, we got to clear the air about jobs here. You know, we talk about it on this program ad nauseum sometimes. Jobs have been inching down over the last 2 or 3 years since we got into this recovery, a very slow recovery. Give us a sense of where we are on jobs right now, and try to give us a sense at the 30,000 foot. I mean, so often it seems we look at the micro movements about jobs. Where are we on jobs? What are you worried about? What are you encouraged about?
Yeah. Currently, we've been adding about 80,000 jobs a month. That was the last report. And at that pace, it's just not enough to move that unemployment needle down at all. Looking forward, I expect it to be between 80 and 120,000 up through the election. Again, we're going to see very little movement in the unemployment rate in response to that. I think there are some major factors that have caused this slow movement in the unemployment rate, and some of it's political and some of it has more economic undertones. The political side is the tone and the rhetoric and the political uncertainty, the fiscal cliff has made it difficult for businesses to undertake any hiring at this point. The second thing is that a lot of people have been unemployed for significant periods of time. 40% of the unemployed population have been unemployed for more than 26 weeks. This signifies to me that there's a mismatch between skills and what employers want to hire. And third, I think what's underappreciated is the fall in the housing prices have created a collateral problem. That the underlying mortgage-backed securities that underlie this drop in wealth have caused credit problems that we would see more credit expansion if we didn't have this big drop of wealth. All those things, I think, have contributed to the slow pace of the economic recovery and the high sustained unemployment rates.
So you know, and not to oversimplify this or not to play this down at all. So do you think the rate, the unemployment rate and the numbers that we see on a monthly basis, do you think that has more of a psychological effect on us than it does an actual mechanical effect on the levers of business and policy?
No, I think there's a real effect to it. Of course, you know, with 12.7 million unemployed people, we care about the hardships of those people. But also, with that many unemployed people, it creates a fiscal strain on the economy as well. You don't have people paying tax revenues in, and then you have money going out to these people in terms of unemployment insurance and other social programs. So it creates a fiscal strain. Also, these monthly numbers are important for us because it's a short-term barometer signaling the health of the economy, that when we have faster employment growth, usually personal income starts growing rapidly in response to that as well. So all those things are important on a real side, but I think there is some mental aspect to it as well.
Okay, Michael, we got to get you in on this, and let's take it to the next level. If we burned off, if we discounted all the political rhetoric and it comes down to a jobs picture that Scott helped us delineate here, is that what this election is going to be about in the fall, at least the presidential election?
Oh, definitely. I mean, if it's going to be over anywhere from probably 50% to 60% of Americans are going to say jobs and the economy are going to be the number one issue that they're going to be voting on. And certainly with unemployment at 8.2%, it doesn't look like it's going to be trending down any time soon. The magic number for a lot of historical perspective is 7.4. That was the unemployment rate when Ronald Reagan was running for re-election. He got re-elected, but everybody over 7.4% unemployment has not gotten reelected. It doesn't look like, even with if jobs were added 200,000 each month, you still wouldn't get to that magic number. So from a big perspective, you know, it looks like Obama's got a real challenging uphill. The other aspect that I would throw into this mix is you have to look at it state by state. And in a number of battleground states, the unemployment rate in the states are actually below the unemployment for the nation. So take, for example, Ohio, some other states that are true battlegrounds. Their unemployment picture is much better than the nation as a whole. So Obama's got a kind of cushion, having won 365 electoral votes. He can give up a substantial number and still get to 270 in terms of the Electoral College.
And now let's take this just a little bit further, and let's stay with you for just a second here, at least in the Old North State. The gubernatorial race, McCrory, Dalton. The latest poll is about a 7 percentage point gap with McCrory in the lead. Can that get tighter? Will that get tighter?
That will get tighter. I mean, I think right now the polls have got McCrory pulling about 15-20% of Democratic support. They will typically tend to come home. You generally tend to expect about 90% of Democrats to vote Democratic. So I think if the presidential election is as close as it looks like it's going to be in North Carolina, right now it's a 46-45 split between Obama and Romney, according to some of the most recent polling. That number at the gubernatorial level is probably going to collapse as well, get much tighter, and you know it could filter down even to state level, congressional level, certainly in North Carolina as well.
Scott, let's come back to you. We've got the South Carolina Treasurer coming up in just a moment, so certainly a lot to shoehorn into our dialogue. But I want to come back to a Supreme Court's decision a couple of weeks ago. We all know what it is now. Is that when you look at it economically, when you look at it business, pretty much the decision had been made a while ago now that seemed to be the direction. It ended up in the highest court in this land, and all of a sudden we're thrown into uncertainty again. What is the impact on business? What is the impact on the economy now that we're past it?
Yeah, I think a lot of the debate since the decision has been on the mandate, is it a tax or not, and that misplaces what we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on whether that's good economic policy. The reason it was put in place it was to achieve two things. One was to increase coverage, and then two was to bend the cost curve down. The program certainly will increase coverage. I'm skeptical on whether it'll bend the cost curve down. We have plenty of examples in history of the government getting involved with something and trying to reduce costs by either increasing the intensity in which they bargain or mandating prices. And we know that typically has little effect on the rate in which prices grow and the overall quality. The quality usually falls in response to that.
Okay, we're going to have to cut it off there. Coming up next week on the program, it's a hot company, and I almost want to say it's a hot little company, but small but getting bigger, out of Research Triangle Park. They've got some of the Gates money now. They're in the very sexy field of bio-nanotech. The name of the company is Liquidia, and the CEO's name is Neil Fowler. He will be here next week. And then in 2 weeks on this program, we're going to be talking about private equity and venture capital. You can't help but hear those terms when we talk about business these days, and they've certainly come to the forefront. We'll find out what private equity is doing in this economy in 2 weeks on this program. In any organization of any kind of size, the chief financial officer, the CFO, is the one most likely to really be able to articulate empirically what the state of health that business, that particular business, is in. Well, for any state in this union, that responsibility falls to the Treasurer's Office. Joining us again is Palmetto State Treasurer Curtis Loftis. Your Honor, welcome to the program.
Nice to see you again.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Treasurer, let's start with probably one of your biggest issues. I'm sure it is, eating and sleeping and drinking this issue, and that is the South Carolina retirement system. You have put a flag in the ground about reforming it. Why does it need to be reformed in the passionate way that you're talking about?
Well, it's an interesting construct. I'm not from the finance world. I'm a businessman, so I jump into this high finance open-eyed, and I see things that others don't. You know, we have a system that there all across the country. There are these large plans, and they're deal-making operations, and they do a fine job of making deals. But when you push the curtain open, it's like the Wizard of Oz, except there's nobody there. The back office, the contract management, the fee reconciliation, all these things that are so important to a business just isn't there. And across the country, these plans,
it isn't there, or you can't see it?
It's just not there. Across the country, it is rare that you find a plan that actually reconciles fees back to source documents, the contracts. And that might not sound very important, but the fees could be $30, $40, $50 million a manager. And so these are important things. We are the largest source of incoming cash to Wall Street, pension plans. And yet we act as if we're the beggars on the street. We should be driving the bus. We should be driving the negotiations and not accepting what terms comes to us. And to these big plans, the partnerships that we join, the funds that we send money to are still opaque. And we've got to crack that. It's taking value from our people. And we're not rich people. We need the value.
So is this about, there's a lot of ways to go with this, Mr. Treasurer. Is this about saving the state money? Is this about returns on the pension system? Is this about in response or an echo of what happened in 2008 with the too big to fail whole mentality? What is this?
It's some of everything. We paid about $340 million last year in fees, over $1.8 million a day. That's a lot of money, and did we get our benefit? I think not. I think for the returns that we had, we paid too much money. If you do that every year, and these are long-term horizons, if you do that every year, you have to think about big money. I mean, we say it's 7.5% is our assumed rate of return. So if we overpay by $50 or $100 million over 30 years, and every year you put that in there, it's a lot of money. The move toward alternatives, I think, is good and healthy. I like alternative investments, don't have a problem with those. But we've got to be able to manage those. And still today, when we invest money, we put money into what's effectively a buy and hold. There's the GP has all, the general partner has all of the power. They keep the books, they do the valuations, and they give us the information that they want to give you. It's very frustrating. People just assume that we know what happens with that. But you get any treasurer or any CIO and ask them specific questions about investments, and they just can't tell you.
I'm going to give you guys a chance to jump in here, please, Scott.
Okay. So South Carolina has recently restructured its pension plan, and the report came out that just in the last few days that the unfunded liabilities have been reduced from 14.4 to 12.4 billion. Do you think these are positive steps that we've made? Is that all that needs to be done in terms of reforming the pension plan?
Well, we made some good steps. The long horizon gives us a lot of ability. We don't have to fix things the very first day. I think the assumptions are fairly rosy. If you just take year one, in year one we said that we would make 7.5%. Well, the year one just closed out the other day, and we'll probably make 1%. So from 7.5% to 1%, you've lost a lot of money. Now next year, does anybody think the plan is going to make 7.5%? Now, of course, we're looking at a long-term horizon, but you don't want to start off in such a deficit. The General Assembly did some things. They stopped some of the bleeding from the pension side, the plan side, and that was excellent. But I'm not sanguine about all of this. I don't think we should go crazy because there's an unfunded liability, but you have to keep your trends straight. And I think the trend will be a little better, and and we just have to keep looking at it.
As a quick follow-up to that, excuse me just a second, Michael. Are you getting support from the State House? Do you get pushback, or do you get somebody?
Well, that's really outside of the retirement system. When anybody attempts real reform and positive reform, hard reform, you don't get a lot of support. I mean, it's always after the fact. You know, every politician saddles up to me and says, "Man, you're doing a great job," but when the camera's cut on, there's nobody around, and so it's a bit of a lonely job. That's why nobody takes on these big battles, because it's bloody. Even when I win these big battles, I still get bloodied up. Mm-hmm. But I'm a bit of an accidental politician. I didn't think I was going to ever be in politics, and I may not run for re-election again. I swore an oath for 4 years, and I'm going to make a difference the 4 years I'm here. Mm-hmm. These big money issues, $25 billion, or the Department of Transportation, which was $300 or $400 million out of whack when we discovered that. They're worth fighting. You know, I've got great staff. They handle the smaller things, but these big ones I don't mind wading into, because that's what makes a difference. That's where you save your money.
Mm-hmm. Michael?
North Carolina's legislature is probably going to tackle, as they have been planning to do for some time now, a major tax reform. Any particular suggestions or advice that North Carolinians could take from what you've seen so far in terms of
if they're successful, well, they tell us. You know, we have a terrible tax code, and I haven't been very involved in it because it's the province of the General Assembly. Right. But we have, I think we have as many exemptions as we do taxes. And I just, you tax string and not yarn, or the other way around. It's those types of things. And there's just no seriousness about it. I mean, we have blue ribbon committee after blue ribbon committee. I was hoping that I was going to be able to get some of this investment commission off my plate sooner, because I wanted to wade into those. Again, most politicians are afraid of tax reform. But, people are adults. We get it. It's like a gas tax. When you don't raise your gas tax in 20 years, you can't complain about the bridges falling down. And you can't complain about your interstates being chocked full, and that's what we have in South Carolina. So we got to have these conversations, and I don't think they're career-ending conversations. I think that adults and voters are adults. They have cash flow problems of their own. They have needs of their own. They want to drive to work. They want their kids to be safe. So we've got to have a better tax code. The tax code is one of the most significant problems we have in South Carolina.
And so let's talk about the debt of South Carolina, and let's talk about how you, Mr. Treasurer, how do you form an idea and sell this idea that taking on debt, and how much debt do you take on to make sure you're making a future investment and you're not so focused on fiscal stewardship and conservative fiscal policies without making that forward investment that clearly needs to be made, especially when we talk about infrastructure and those bridges?
Yeah, infrastructure, we're way past to it. And what I'm really afraid of, and I hope I had a long overnight flight and my voice is about gone. What I'm afraid of is across the country, states have stopped spending money on infrastructure. And the things that people call infrastructure now really aren't. If you're in South Carolina, you know that I-26, which used to be kind of a lonely road, especially between Columbia and Charleston, it's just chock full. And a lot of it's the port traffic, but it's a lot of other traffic as well, and I-95. We've got to look at infrastructure with the priority it is. And I think that comes back to some of the issues that a lot of us hit, transparency and accountability. The Department of Transportation does not handle its money well. Well, let's just say they didn't. Now, we put them on the front page of the paper about this time last year, and they made significant reforms. But, that in itself, people say, well, who cares about that? Well, the taxpayer cares. They don't want to give a new gas tax to somebody who's not going to spend their money properly. But if they know that actually look at a dollar's value for a dollar's tax, if they know that they will really get bridges and roads, well, then they'll be for it. And so this is a conversation that's going to be years in the taking, but I'm not afraid of it, and I hope that others will stand up as well. This ties in some to the pension conversation, because there's a lot of talk about pension plans being more active in infrastructure. We have the Canadians do a lot of that and been pretty successful at it. I've got an ongoing conversation with a fellow from up there because I just want to know about it. I don't know that we'll do that, but it's certainly one of the tools in the box.
Mm-hmm. Scott?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Port of Charleston. A study back in 2008 said roughly 11% of the jobs in South Carolina are supported by the port. If we deepen this port, some estimates say that any vessel could carry as many as 100 more containers. Certainly that would lead to either some job creation or supporting more jobs. Has there been a study that looks at the impact of employment or the tax base through better jobs, and how funding that port will impact the overall state of South Carolina.
There sure has, and you're 100% right. We need that port, and we need it badly. We're lucky that Charleston Harbor is a natural harbor. If you look at Savannah, they have to widen and deepen their canal. It's almost 10 miles offshore. It's better part of $1 billion, where ours is just a little over $300 million. And the maintenance isn't so bad. We're already at 48 feet, and with the right tide, you're above that. So we're kind of post-Panamax already, but you can't really depend on it. It's important. It's an issue I want to get involved with as well. I think there's too much politics around the port and the dual rail capacity. I think there are politicians holding it up. I think there's some parochial interests that need to be solved. I think there are people who want to make too much money. When you have a big interest like this, and you're talking about huge sums of money, I mean, it's hard for the average person to understand what shipping means. You sit down and look at pieces of paper and you just can't understand it hardly. You've got to make it work. And we've been arguing about some of these issues for too many years, and it's time to make something happen. And I think that it's something that if South Carolina's going to keep its economic base, we've got to move quickly.
Do you feel like the Palmetto State has a friend in Jim Newsom down there?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's a clever fellow, and I think he's doing well. You know, he inherited a bit of a mess, but he's a clever fellow. So we hope. There's always the argument about whether our port's the right model because of this, quasi-government and all that. But that's for another day. There are things that can be done, and we've got to finish the port. We've sequestered the money. The General Assembly did a great job on that, and that's just one of the most important things that we can do.
Michael?
South Carolina is, of course, a unified government, Republican Party controlled, but oftentimes even within unified government, there's not a whole lot of unity.
That's right.
There can be different factions fighting against one another. With the polarization of politics, and you said you were not a politician, that you came from a business perspective, what has really surprised you about the level of polarization, and what can be done, if anything, to really kind of overcome it, to enact good public policy for the citizens of the states of North Carolina, South Carolina, around the country?
I'm glad you brought that up. It's very important. I've been thinking about this a lot. I can almost not watch TV news anymore. I don't care which channel. Pick the channel. I know what they're going to say before they say it. You know what that network is pushing, whether it's CNN, Fox, MSNBC, doesn't matter. And I've got a couple of lines and speeches I give, especially if I'm in front of a partisan group. I'll say, is it working for you? If it's a Republican group, I'll say, is that Fox thing working for you? You've been listening for 15 years and you say you're losing ground. And if I'm before a liberal group, I'll say the same thing. How's that CNN, MSNBC thing working? And nobody's happy. Intelligent folks on both sides of the spectrum, they realize that what we're really getting is just bad government. The conservatives are mad about Obamacare, but if it was a good bill, they stomach it. It's just bad law. I don't know anybody, and I have a lot of friends that are very intelligent, articulate liberals. I don't know anybody that thinks just on its face it does what they want it to do. It's terribly expensive, and it's cumbersome, and it's probably not going to work the way they think. So I think on both sides of the spectrum, you've got these people just unhappy in government. Now, I've been treasurer for 16 months, and I understand why. It is amazing what goes on in government. I find myself alone all the time. We elect people who are
alone in what way?
Well, alone. Anytime I find an issue of great importance, I have very few people who will join me out there on the front. And people talk about transparency and accountability. I tell you, people love to talk about fraud, waste, and abuse. But when's the last time you saw somebody actually point it out? Every time we do in-depth studies or audits of agencies, we find problems. But you notice we don't do very many in-depth studies and audits. Most states have gone to agreed upon procedures, which are simply attestations, So we go out of our way, and I think it's just who we have elected in office. We elect people who consider themselves the masters and not the servants, so therefore they have a different worldview. And I just reject all that. In South Carolina, we claim to all be Republicans. Until we elect a class of people who truly see themselves as servants, you're going to always get this terrible government. They don't care. I would rather have a liberal Democrat be my governor if they cared about the people of their state, or if I were a liberal or Republican. But if you look across the country, look at what governors do. They travel around the country, they raise money, they're always trying to get on Fox or MSNBC. They will never stay in their home state. If you knew how little the average governor was in their state working, it would upset you. I found the same with one reason I ran for office. I started checking into the constitutional officers in South Carolina. And they don't work 1, 2, 3 days a week at the most. The guy that I threw out of office made me mad because I said, you should show up more than 1 day a week.
Well, unfortunately, we've just ran out of time because I wanted to talk to you about this Tea Party kind of sound that you're making here. But would you run for governor?
I don't know. I'll be lucky to get out of this term alive, but I keep raising the questions that I am. So
Thank you.
We'll see.
Mr. Treasurer, good to have you back on the program.
Good to be here.
Thank you for being here. Michael, welcome.
Thank
We
you.
will watch your predictions on this election in North Carolina, as a lot of people will. Scott, good to see you. Thank you. Take care. Until next week, I'm Chris William. Hope your weekend is good. Good night.
Major funding for Carolina Business Review was provided by the Duke Endowment, a private foundation in Charlotte enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, healthcare, rural churches, and children's services. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. Who's responsible for rising healthcare costs? Join Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina and many others in a candid discussion at letstalkcost.com. Grant Thornton, an international accounting, tax, and business advisory organization dedicated to serving middle-market companies. Grant Thornton, a passion for the business of accounting. Novant HEALTH, including Presbyterian in Charlotte and Forsyth in Winston-Salem, are affiliate heart hospitals of the Cleveland Clinic, consistently ranked #1 in the nation for heart care. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of South Carolina, proudly serving South Carolinians since 1946. Sunoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services with more than 300 operations in 35 countries. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Promotional consideration provided by Business North Carolina Magazine. For more information, visit carolinabusinessreview.com.